Diane here, and I have Ryszard with me. Ryszard is quite a remarkable man who I met last year and learnt spirogenics from. So today we're going to get to know Ryszard. Thank you for the interview.
Thank you, Diane.
So who is Ryszard Stelmach?
Good question. I'm still trying to figure that out myself. It's a label or a name that my parents gave me. Okay, beautiful, beautiful name. So Ryszard is Polish for Richard. They happen to be Polish parents. So basically, I grew up in the southwest here and ventured from accounting into bodywork, kinesiology, balancing, bodies, movement, you name it, and ended up with spirogenics.
Accounting?
I did accounting.
Wow.
I used to balance books. That's how I
And then you balance bodies.
And then in the 80s, I became a touch for health instructor and balanced, muscle testing and balanced bodies. And then did one brain facilitator. I became a whole brain facilitator. In the 90s, having spent a decade of learning and stuff from movement, talking about movement. Things that got me into this spirogenics is actually moving meditation, which I sort of dropped a lot of my other having to be still meditations that a lot of gurus were trying to tell me and to do. So anyway,
where did your interest for body movement come from?
Well, I think initially I just used to love outdoors and play and climb trees, surf and swim.
I didn't know about that.
I think what else do you do as a kid? You just move. And back in the early 80s, discovering kinesiology body work, I guess the real movement came when I discovered Tai Chi.
Beautiful.
L1 was this, and I never heard of Tai Chi back in the early 80s in Sydney. Did this weekend workshop, and I was just amazed at this Chinese dude, just strike, touching the peacock feathers, and he's sort of moving in these ways, beautiful metaphors for movement. And I was just so entranced, and he was teaching like spontaneous Tai Chi, and I got something at a level my mind, I still remember trying to do movements through my mind and, lift this leg and arm, but I left there thinking, I want to learn Tai Chi, I don't know what it is, but I just fell in love with this whole Oriental, it is, it's really, really beautiful. Any mastery of dance and movement and stuff, So I ended up enrolling for a Tai Chi course with, I think it was a Tai Chi Academy, just starting in Paddington in Sydney. But the trouble is, I went there and I started looking at him doing the movements and was like, oh, it's not what I felt or saw with this thing. It was like more mechanical movement, and it was like, that sort of didn't last too long. I did my training, of course. I then found Aikido, a lot of tumbling and rolling and spiralling, and due to previous surfing injuries and dislocated shoulders and stuff, and big with waves and that, I ended up thinking this is a little bit rough for my body, but it's still an amazing. I love the whole Oriental martial arts concept and philosophy. I then discovered Feldenkrais and became one of the early students of Moshe's work, Moshe Feldenkrais. That was like the opposite of whatever I learned, just lay here and turn your head gently and move your eyes in the other direction, So after you did immerse myself in a month of this training, and I came out thinking, well, this is, before that I was doing yoga, and I've done so many things basically. And out of that, it was after doing Feldenkrais, I couldn't do yoga anymore. It was like, oh, this is just so simple. I think I like the easy way. Effortless, easy, let go, let God, So it's with a lot of training and background behind me, and then the final straw was when I met my last spiritual teacher in the 90s, who taught me spontaneous movement meditation. It's called by many different names. He had Kirpal Singh was his name, and he was a Sikh. He looked the guru type. He had the turban and the long beard.
That's what you want.
For me to be that, I have to put the turban on. So I could never quite do that one. So, but anyway, And that kind of rocked my boat, because all of a sudden I realised that there's a whole other world of movement within me, you know, a world that I'd never touched before by just sitting there and chanting mantras and visualising, watching the breath and all of these things. And the basic technique is let go, let God, which I've also written a song. I'm a singer-songwriter, so in all my workshops I, you know, introduce and do my thing. And that kind of set a benchmark for me, because all of a sudden I wasn't moving, but I was being moved, you know, my whole being, and out of these kind of these prayers and chants and mantras that I would be singing consciously and with volition, you know, and they would just come out, and it was feeling so good. It was kind of almost, dare I say the word, orgasmic experience, almost orgasmic experience. So so that was like, okay, this has got me entertained. I've entered into that world of movement, the body. I studied many body. I used to, you know, teach kinesiology, do massage body work, you know, you name it, shiatsu, Feldenkrais work, and so this was a great spin to that. So I became a meditation teacher. He wanted me to, you know, travel the world and read, but I had my guru issues, unfortunately. Might have stemmed from my father, who, you know, to do something wrong, he'd want to get the belt out and whack. So anyway, that was, didn't quite occur, but I did incorporate that in my work, and eventually what I used to see with people who would do all the spiritual training, they had the beautiful free flow movement, spontaneous, go into very prayerful kind of meditative states, and then they'd be lying on the floor, and then I'd watch them, I'd sort of spiral over, come up very gently, and then I'd see them lift their neck up and sort of jerk their way up, you know, in this linear fashion. It was like, oh, you could feel it after a while. You probably,
I understand now.
You understand now, you know, which is fantastic. so it's a bit of a thing, and I'm thinking, this is, you know, all the stuff that I've learnt, and I know there's another way of coming up, you know, through the spiral. And years ago, I was watching a dentist friend of mine in Sydney, Greg, who again coming up with this very harsh linear way, and I said, "Here, come here, Greg, let me show you something." So I did a muscle test and just checked them before and after, so they could come up that way. You did, and sure enough, the arms comes down. That was, in other words, it's a switch off. You know, the body just it's a stress state for the body. And when I showed him how to come up through the spiral, everything just switched back on. And that's really the inner conception of spirogenics. Is like, that's how we designed, you know. Yeah. Chinese, the Taoists, they all know this shit, you know. So that started another journey into putting things together, and it's an ongoing process, you know. It just doesn't stop, you know, because everything we do involves movement.
It does.
And the key to spirogenics is that in every moment you're either moving in harmony or harming yourself. So I'd like to see people reconnect to their majestic self, their, you know, their, call it authentic or whatever you want to say.
That's true, yeah.
And there is a walk within us. I started studying Sufism for over 10 years, and Inayat Khan, the Sufi teacher, once said that there is the majestic walk. You know, it's the walk when you're walking in total attunement and oneness with the Creator, you know, with the divine within. And of course, he probably looked a bit majestic because he wore his, you know, little cap and his black gown and stuff. But never mind, in this day and age, even walking down to Coles, you can still have a majestic walk. So the idea that when you do tune into movements of spiral nature, something happens. The body reattunes itself, and we also have, not only does it work with the body-mind, but also with the spirit, because I introduced the spontaneous let go meditation within it. So it's one of the few holistic exercises and meditations and you name it, movement integration systems that I know of. And the reason what makes it very quite different is because I introduced kinesiology. I introduced the muscle monitoring, you know, techniques with it.
It surprises people, it really does. When they
it shocks people.
Yes, that's a better word.
I've had yoga teachers turn white.
Not surprised.
And it's like they go, what the far out, yeah. And why does it do that? Because many people don't know that some of these movements, when not all yoga, but some yoga, if you do it the incorrect way or in a very overly linear way, it actually switches off the body and the circuits. You then got to work to get it back up again. So what do? You probably want to do more stretching, more this, more that, more sitting. Probably the thing that gets you through it is the let go at the end,
yes.
You know, the yoga nidra, which is awesome, you know. But look, so
how does spirogenics help people?
How does it help people? Well, within the classes, the model that I use is a. I'll just put this up because I have this as a model. I talk about 3 worlds of movement. And the first world of movement that most of us are in is the unconscious movement pathway, and where we're harming ourselves. So getting out of this chair, if I get out of this chair, you know, I'm going to kink my neck back and I'm going to switch off, you know, you've experienced that. So there's other ways we can begin to roll through the pelvis, lift through the pelvis, get the head orientated differently. So it's an exploration into learning new movement pathways about how we can reconnect to our body, be present, be in the body. Otherwise, it's a little bit difficult, you know. Some people lead through the head, the body. So the idea is that we go from pain. If we're in that world of pain, where the pendulum movement or continuum, where it's moving against the flow of life, what happens is that we'll either have something, do a wrong movement, or do something where we create pain. We then want to fix it.
Yes.
Okay, we've all gone through that. So we go to a masseur, a chiropractor, or a therapist. Nothing wrong with that. Okay, sometimes we need that extra. We need.
Yeah.
And there's a good therapist there. You're beautiful. Yeah. So we do need that. But this is something that you've got within your own beingness. You know. So there's a movement that actually works as the healing balm, as the spiral movement is the movement of nature, the universe itself.
It is, yeah.
So that when you discover that everything is moving through that pathway, every cell, as I speak, the heart, it's not a pump, it's a vortexical pump, you know. So that most of us are going from 1 minute we're in pain, we get something going, and then we're a little bit more pleasure. It's this constant up and down movement continuum, pleasure, pain. If we're in the pain continuum at the time, which a lot of us are, we then start going spiraling downward.
Yes.
Instead of opening up into more unending, you know, joy and pleasure. So with that, what happens? The body compensates. You know, it collapses. It goes. You know, depending. We have the emotions behind that. We start to shrink, and then we think this is all old age. As we get older, you know, you see body shrinking, collapsing, coming down. You know, and then it's a very grave situation. You know, down we go. So fortunately, there is we have the opposite force within us, which is actually levity. Gravity pulls us down, levity raises us. Hence, laughter is a good medicine.
No, it does raise laughter, doesn't it?
That laughter here opens up this.
Yeah.
So when we do that, the next level is at a conscious level, where we're moving for life. Now I know yoga does this, Moshe's work, Alexander, all the Tai Chi. What I found within spirogenics, which has the same goal or vision as yoga, which yoga means union, you know, union of body, mind, soul, spirit. So spirogenics is about reconnecting ourselves to the underlying movement or spiral movement of life, or the breath of life. So that we can introduce a new movement we can begin to move from that particular place. You know, a movement that starts connecting us, so we can move for life. And that's.
You can incorporate it in yoga, can't you?
Yeah. So the idea is that it creates a movement foundation. So it's like the A, B, C of movement. How am I going to move my arm? You know, do I move it linearly, or can I move it through up, you know, through a spiral pathway? Very different. Each one has a different consequence and response, result. Yeah, so you can embody so that what you can do, you can do any movement through this. It gives you the foundation that you can, if you like yoga, you could continue down that path, you know. You can, like Tai Chi,
Chi?
You could do Spira Chi, Spira Yoga, you know, all of these aspects, you know, so no limitation, and ultimately it becomes your yoga, you know, so that when you do this, so Spirogenics is not like my technique that, you know, I'm just giving you tools and some inspiration and some things that I've gleaned over the years, you know, because it wasn't my intention to come in this pathway through, I'm going to be a movement teacher or, you know, it's a far cry from being an accountant. I can tell you that. Accounting.
Wouldn't met you otherwise.
No, so accounting. So I had it was the other way. So that from conscious movement being moving for life, the next world of movement, which is still unknown to a lot of us in the West, is the movement of consciousness itself, the movement of life, and that's where this meditation brings us into. So it's not a thing that you can think about or have to. You know, a lot of mindful meditation, like Buddhists do, or Sufi, they'll get you the stand, walk, observe your walk. You know, so I am now walking. So you know, firstly you've got to look at who the I am is, and you know, when you say, well, who is Ryszard? You know, well, there is this the outer Ryszard, but there's also you know, the unseen. You know, we've all got that unseen, the beauty, the aspect within us. So the more we connect with that, that's where our power, connecting back to that source, the creative source within us. So they're the main three worlds. So that anybody tuning in, whether it's a session or a half a day, 1 day, this weekend, I'm actually doing a weekend. So
that was my next question. Ryszard's in Perth for a very short time.
I am, aren't I? Yeah.
Yes.
So we've got
tell me about that.
Yeah. Full immersion this weekend down at Mandurah, a lovely retreat centre down there at Yunderup, I think it is, yeah. So a weekend just gives us time to really reconnect. So one of the first things you find out about when we're doing Spirogenics is find out what your current paradigm is of movement. Where do you fit in this world, these three worlds of movement? They all interlace, they all interconnect. Most of us are unknowingly in the movement against life. And this is why I say that the key is in every moment you're either moving in harmony or harming yourself.
So true.
And so you can still be doing yoga and harming yourself.
Yes.
That's why I've had yoga teachers just...
I noticed that when I attended a class where people come off the
floor. Yeah. So they're unconsciously and look, there can be a kind of an addictive quality to, you know, certain movements and things, and so it all depends on what we want. You know, you look at the aerobics and all of that, so people get fixated on getting their, you know, adrenaline junkies and getting this fixation on that. Yeah. So again, I like to come back to balance with everything there in the context of. Probably with Spirogenics, because I've had the orientation of the somatic areas. Not many people know the somatic is the soma is a beautiful word for the body in its wholeness, living wholeness. It's a Greek word. It's also a Sanskrit word.
Sanskrit.
Soma in Sanskrit is meaning the ecstasy, the elixir, the nectar that we get from doing right yoga, right meditation, right posture. But also the Greeks had it as the full, like the tree of life, the living body in its wholeness. And there's a man called Thomas Hanna that developed somatics. You know, now there's a whole thing called Hanna somatics, and he's tapped into that. He started with Moshe Feldenkrais, who was one of the early somatic teachers. So I guess anyone into exploring their body, their inner mind, you know, spirit, soul, is a somatic practitioner, you know. So this sort of deviates a little bit from the traditional yoga, going more into somatic exploration.
Okay.
These days we have part of it, what we include is somatic meditation. So it's reconnecting back into the body. How am I sitting? Am I aware that I'm doing this? You know, cutting my breath off, and so yeah, there is mindfulness, but there's also a deep level of also re-entrainment within the body, because once we tune into what's going on within our own body and our own intelligence, we kind of hook that up with the universal intelligence that orchestrates the whole show. You know?
Yes.
So it's a bit too big for the little mind to Ryszard's mind to grasp. You know, and I've done all sorts of crazy things and techniques to try and get beyond the mind, but it's a bit of a hard slog and the thing. You know, we can't.
You can't have egoectomy.
And no, you egoectomy. Yeah. Once I was studying Sufism, and we had this new student German who, after 6 months, the goal was to get rid of the ego, and he comes back and says, "I've got rid of the ego, what's next?" And we all sort of had a little smirk and smile and laugh, and it was kind of fun, yeah.
So you have a website?
Yeah, spirogenics.com.
And a Facebook group?
Spirogenics, actually.
Yeah.
Otherwise, my name, Ryszard Stelmach, on Facebook, yeah.
Spirogenics is Ryszard's one of a kind, so just Google Spirogenics and you'll find him. Yeah,
it's a one-off, yeah. A bit like all of us, a bit like me, we're a one-off. Yeah. But it's a lot of fun. It's an exploration where you get to upgrade your movement paradigm from.
Connect to your inner child a bit too.
Yeah, there is that.
I love that.
Yeah, there is that reconnection. Yeah, look, it's all there, and I will sing 1 or 2 lullabies and we've got songs here.
Don't miss it. Get down to his workshop this weekend.
This weekend, yeah. You can find it on spirogenics.com or my Facebook page. Yeah, I'll have to do. Okay.
Right. Thank you, Ryszard.
Thanks, Deanne. That was nice talking to you.
See you, everybody.
Mate.